Thank you, thank you, thank you. For those just joining us, thank you. We are glad to have you join us. We have 28 people at 5:01 already, with a lot of people waiting in the waiting room, which we are also admitting them. Thank you, everyone. Welcome, everyone. Thanks, please, as you join us, put in your location, wherever you are at this moment joining us, put in your location in the chat box and put in your best emoji. I mean, emoji helps us to express how we are feeling. And as human, now that we do a lot of virtual interaction, sometimes you are wondering, how is that other person feeling? And yet we are interacting with people on a daily basis. But with the emoji, it helps us to connect with them. It helps us to know how they are feeling so that we can better engage with them. And that is really important for us. Please, can you go on mute? Can you go on mute, please? Okay. Thank you once again. Thank you, everyone, and welcome. We'll go ahead and start today's session. So, my name is Lara Yeku, the visionary behind my HR GEMS Coaches Network. GEM actually means Great Excellent Mind. And our mission really is to help develop HR professionals to be transformative change agents. With the world that we are in, you would all agree with me that we cannot solve today's problems with yesterday's solution. The world is really evolving. There's a whole lot of demand on human resources. And at the same time, there's a lot of expectation on us. So our vision and our goal at HR James is to bring together like minds and create a safe learning platform where we can all learn and grow together as transformative HR professionals, learning and understanding the dynamics, as well as what are the tools, strategies and methodologies that we can use as HR professionals to be transformative agents. A lot of times we hear bring back the human into human resources. Most professionals are focused on the resources part, and a lot of people are not really aware how do we bring back the human in the human resources. So our goal is to make HR professionals change agents. First, we start by changing ourselves. I tell people we complain about HR too, we are human beings. And a lot of times people can't give what they don't have. So there's so much expectation from HR, but who is really equipping HR professionals to ensure that we are able to deliver to expectation? We train a lot of people and most times we forget ourselves. But at HR Gems, we first transform ourselves through our thinking, our mind, through knowledge sharing, and at the same time create platform. For us at HR Gems, we are not just professionals, we are impactful HR professionals. We are HR professionals with a purpose. We don't just approach our role as HR professionals just as HR professionals. Rather, we approach it with meaning and purpose. We see our role as a transformative agent, as a channel for us to impact our organization, our business through our people. And that is what HR Gems is really all about. Today is another interesting interactive engagement session. So we thought about it beyond just us developing ourselves within our platform. How can we begin to take the gospel outside HR Gems? And that is the objective behind the interactive sessions that we have on a monthly basis. Today is another interesting session, and I'm particularly really passionate about today's topic, which is understanding organizational psychology. If you agree with me that if you look at the top 10 skills that would be required in the future of work by 2025, as documented by World Economic Forum, those skills largely centers on problem solving, self-management, and managing people. And you agree with me that human beings are extremely complex. I mean, even within the family domain, you're still trying to understand your husband, your first child, your second child, your third child, your nanny, your aunties. Therefore, we married women, your mother-in-laws, your sister-in-laws, you're just trying to manage and understand them. How much more, having to manage employee workforce of 10, 20, 50, 6,000, 14,000 in some cases. You can imagine that, right? So today, it's really around. Hello? Someone said something. Okay. So today is really around how we can share knowledge. How can we bring that understanding of human psychology to enable us drive performance and productivity in the workplace? Recently, I mean, I've been hearing a lot about, oh, there's a need to connect the body, mind, and the heart in the workplace. As HR professionals, we are responsible to design initiatives that will enable us drive performance for our business. And most times, those initiatives are targeted at people, some processes, and all of that. But for us, it's targeted at people. And those initiatives really is targeted at an outcome. We want an outcome from the initiatives we design, from the policies and the processes. There's an outcome we are all looking at driving at. However, what drives that outcome? The outcome is the behavior, what we see physically. But behind that behavior that we want to achieve, behind the outcome, behind the result we want to achieve, what is that fundamental element, attribute that drives it? Before somebody takes an action, there's a thought that had gone in their mind. Before someone responds and obeys or disobey, where in the instance where we apply sanction, is to correct. But a lot of times we don't think through what is leading to that disobedience, what is leading to that action, what is leading to that obedience, what's leading to that defense. There's a whole lot going on. And to ensure that we are able to get some answers or a lot of answers to this, we have a special guest in the house. On this note, I am going to invite a gem, a member of GEM platform. We don't call ourselves names on a platform. I mean, we have an identity and we are GEM stars, right? So I'm going to call GEM star KG Sonny to help with the introduction of our guest speaker. Once again, thank you so much, everyone. We are so honored to have you. I mean, the notice was quite short, and as at 5:08, we have over 54 attendants, with a lot of people still in the waiting room. Thank you. Sit back, relax, try and concentrate. It's going to be an amazing, wow learning session. On that note, I'll hand over to Gemstar KG to introduce our guest speaker today. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach Lara. Hello, everyone. It's such an honor to introduce our amazing and outstanding speaker of today. Eyitayo Iyortim is an organizational psychologist, human resource management specialist, and ICT project manager with over 20 years experience in project management, training solutions, software sales and operations, organizational development, and talent management solutions. Eyitayo has worked with many individuals and teams, coaching and mentoring the teams for success. Her career successes include building transformational programs for employers in some of the largest organizations in Nigeria and managing key relationships for a global brand at C-level. Eyitayo has acquired CPDs in employee engagement, relationships at work, and assessment center management. She is certified in ability and personality testing, project management. Apologies, my daughter is participating as well.
It's okay.
And life coaching. She is a certified cognitive behavioral therapist, coach practitioner, as well as a member of the Life Coaches Association of Nigeria and the British Psychological Society. She has an MSc in organizational psychology from the University of Manchester, UK, and currently serves as the Chief Experience Officer at Talent Urbanity Limited and Life Coach at Whetstone Coaching. Talent Urbanity caters to the human resource development needs of organizations and consists of a team of psychologists practicing in HR. Their specializations include selection and assessment, training, employee relations, and performance management. She is the mother of 3 boys, an ardent reader, and a budding author. One of her poems has been published in an international anthology. Please, with a resounding gem, welcome, both virtual and I think you can also unmute your mic, make welcome Coach. Some of us call her coach, we call her mentor. She's a leader, Eyitayo Iyortim. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
You're welcome.
You are welcome, ma.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice to be here. This is family. Awesome. Thank you, KG. Thank you, KG. Thank you, Coach Lara. Both my sisters and both people doing amazing. Congratulations to the Gem Star, the HR Gem Coach Network. I'm honored to belong to that network. I'm honored to do the work that I do with organizations, and I'm blessed to be here. Thank you for your awesome compliments. I can see, you're welcome. Awesome. Can I share my screen? I believe so.
Yes, you can. You've been enabled.
Thank you so much. All right. So I'm going to start by saying that my name is Eyitayo Iyortim, and no, it's not Iyortimi. It's Iyortim, and it's a team name. So, and I should start by sharing that when my first son went to secondary school, came to secondary school in Lagos many years ago, they kept adding an I to his surname because, I mean, the teachers just did not understand what kind of name it is. So, on that note, I'll introduce Talent Urbanity Limited, the startup that I work with, and this is my dream vision to be able to support organizations and individuals. I do a lot of career mentoring as well, particularly for women. I run a Bible study known as Regenerate, and it's very busy. We just had a session this afternoon. We have 2 more sessions today on that network as well. So it's really an honor to be alive at this time and to be able to share about organizational psychology. I think is amazing, really. Now, first I'll ask if you can hear and see me clearly. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Everybody, am I clear? Yes, yes, good. Thank you, Coach. Thank you so much. I had been following Coach Lara for a long time. Quietly.
Yes, we can hear you.
Then she uprooted me, found me, and then she turned around and started following me. So interesting. It's interesting. Okay, let's get right down to it. One of the questions that people have asked me, they asked me when I was in Manchester. That was my graduation picture. I had to go and find it. They asked me when I was in Manchester, and people asked me a lot and keep asking me is, hold on. So you wanted to work in HR. So why didn't you just go for an MSc in human resource management? Like seriously, you just went to the side. People have all kinds of perceptions and understandings about what organizational psychology. So this is really a golden opportunity. So there were a few reasons, and I just articulated a number of reasons why. The first is that I already had a degree in psychology. I do have a first degree in psychology, and I knew which division I wanted to specialize in of psychology, and it was occupational psychology, or we call it organizational psychology, or we call it industrial organizational psychology, and I'll use these terms interchangeably. The second is that I have always been interested in human behavior. My dad asked me about 3 weeks ago. My dad's a retired professor, by the way. He asked me about 3 weeks ago, so why exactly? I did something. A nurse, he was in hospital, let me just share. And a nurse was being so really, really nasty, just painful. And my dad was wondering why. And I said to him, it's not about you. She has something that she is battling with. And so when you see her behave like that, you need to think about the roots of the behavior and not respond to the behavior itself or react to it. And so this was 2 days later, and the nurse came and we started talking, and somehow we learned that the nurse did actually have a problem child that they were dealing with at home. So just to say that I've always been interested in why people do the things that they do. My friends would consider me very weird, and I think I've always been weird. And this doesn't necessarily have to be a bad word. It just means that I'm different, and we are all different. When we use the word weird, it's because we try to fit the person into who we think that they should be, but nobody has any right to think that anybody needs to be a certain way. The third reason I would like to share is that I had worked as a project manager on transformational projects in Nigeria, and there were very peculiar organizational challenges about transfer of learning to the job. And actually, that's what I did my dissertation on: the transfer of learning, transfer of training on the job, and adaptation and acceptability and user experience and all that. So I was really piqued by the amount of transformational steps and approaches that you need to apply in Nigeria, even when you want to implement a very minor change. And I wanted to understand how to help organizations manage change better. And so organizational performance has always been important to me. So it's not enough to say I have 100,000 employees if year on year, quarter on quarter, we cannot actually see that you are improving as an organization. And the issues about culture, eating strategy for breakfast, I'm sure you've heard that before, and all those other issues were really pertinent and really key for me in understanding how to support organizations better. And the last point I want to share is that I was intrigued by the incongruence between leadership, and I'm talking executive leadership, and the HR department. So the head of a unit decides that they want to do something. They have the budget for it. They've even put together a project plan. And then HR comes and says, okay, but I need to change your team around. There's something that we know about this person. This person may not necessarily be right. Do you know any organization where they take that conversation seriously? Anybody? Yes, no, yes? Where they take the counsel from HR about members of a project team seriously? Anybody? Yes or no? Please, I'm looking at the chat room. Anybody? Yes, no, yes, no, 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 no. So there's an HR department, and I'm not seeing the response, and I just saw one no. Yes, nice. Okay. And Yola Oyeleke says she has a yes. That's an awesome organization. Omotola said they rarely even have that discussion. Thank you. Oh, Omolola Oshinlaja says, yes, she knows an organization. Awesome. So things are changing. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, about the time that I did my master's, most organizations were not interested in what HR had to say about who would be the member of a project team or an implementation team or a team that needs to get a certain job done. So these intrigues, the fact that I was already a psychologist, so these intrigues were playing around in my head, but the fact that I was already a psychologist made them more, so people ask, so do you know what I'm thinking right now? That's not how it works, by the way. It's people ask questions expecting psychologists to be able to predict. Now, while predictability is a small area that we play in, psychology is more, better be described as the scientific study of the mind and behavior. Now, we are involved in studying mental processes, brain functions, and behavior. So there's actually a huge part of psychology that is physiology. We call it biophysiology or biopsychology. And so psychology is considered like a hub of science. Please mute if you're on the call. Thank you. So it's considered a hub science. So we kind of straddle the medical sciences, social sciences, and education. And this is a very, very interesting part to be. So I mean, I think I was born a psychologist, and I think most psychologists will tell you that they've always been interested in people and why people do the things that they do. Now we're going to start applying it to organizations. So am I saying that, and I hope everybody likes Kabilami. I watch him sometimes when I want to be amused. Am I saying that everything is behavior and all that happens, is about behavior in an organization? Is there too much about behavior? I don't think so. So let's look at it. Performance is about the mind and behavior. I can make myself perform better based on what I tell myself. And so the influence of the mind and the brain and thought processes on behavior make it important that you understand behavior in order to influence performance. How about training transfer? It's not enough to spend millions to train employees if you come in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, 3 months, 1 year, and the employee is not applying the training. In many organizations, if you find 40% transfer of training to the workplace, then you've done really well. And this is a global problem, it's not necessarily a Nigerian problem. So training transfer is key. Now, how is training transferred to the job? The training I sent you for might be very key to what you do. How do I ensure that it is actually transferred to the work that you are doing? That is behavior. Leadership is behavior. We have so many leadership theories and all about leadership. So when we talk about succession planning, it's not just to say that this is the next person in hierarchy to the individual who we're trying to build a succession plan for. It is also to look at the skills that are essential for that role and to wonder. So it's not enough to be at that level in the organization. You need to also have the core skills and the behavioral tendencies. So for example, I'll just use a light example here. Don't take it too seriously. If you're a boss who gets angry easily while you're managing 6 people, to promote you to start to manage 20 is an exercise in flexibility. It means that I am pushing you into an area where you haven't built your strengths yet. Can those strengths be built? Yes. But leadership, therefore, becomes a really important area in behavior and in organizational psychology, and we'll get there. How about selection? So part of what we do at Talent Urbanity is recruitment. And a lot of people come and say, look, I need this employee, I need the person in 1 week. And I tell them, don't come to us. It's not going to happen. Why? Because we actually do, aside from ability assessment, we do personality assessments. We use tools to check organizational fit. Some people will thrive better in a smaller organization. It is not a statement of it's not really a statement of competence. It's more a statement of behavior and personality aptitudes and the way that you are. Some people will thrive better back office. Some people will thrive better customer facing. So if you take somebody who's a back office person, just because the person has a 2-1 in a certain course and has worked in 10 places and has the 10 years, which are the things that we usually read on CVs, if you put the person in a customer facing role, it's going to take the person a bit of time. You have to put that time, you have to put it into your plan that you need 6 months in order to get this person to be agreeable enough to start to face customers. Now, does your sales cycle allow you to have that kind of leeway? Maybe, maybe not. You're beginning to see why psychology is so important and behavior is so important when you talk about an organization and when you talk about people. How about union management? 2 weeks ago, I was delivering the management union retreat at the Transcorp Hilton Hotel in Abuja. It's something that they do every year. And organizations that are serious about what they do should start to do that kind of retreat, where we have management and union and they agree on what's going to happen, where the organization is going to go. Kudos to Mrs. Olushola and her team. And it was an interesting 2 days, just aligning the leadership strategy with the union and the organizational employee welfare, engaging the employees. That is psychology. It is about behavior. What about mental health? Now, many organizations have not even realized that post-COVID, there's a lot of instability everywhere. People are not sure about their jobs anymore. They're not sure whether their landlord is going to increase rent. They're not sure if they're going to have enough money to pay the rent. Some are not even sure if their organizations can continue to pay salaries. Do you know that there are organizations that went to 50% pay and have not been able to come back to 100%? So organizations have employee debts that we didn't have hitherto. And these are real issues affecting the mental health of employees. If you were closing late before, insecurity now has increased. And so maybe your employees will not need to stay that late. And if you keep making them stay late, then they are anxious when they're going home. They get home, there's so much adrenaline in their system, they cannot sleep early. And so when they wake up, they are as cranky as they slept last night. Mental health is key to the performance of organizations. Is this behavior? Yes. Is this psychology? Yes. Efficiency. One of the areas, and we're going to talk a little bit about the areas in organizational psychology. One of the areas that we touch on is ergonomics, comfort, structure, the way that an office is. So I'll give you an example. When organizations moved to the open office structure, for those who have moved into it, it became a little bit difficult for core introverts to work. Just the fact that everybody is having conversations around them is disturbing the way that their brain processes information. So if you want to move your organization to open plan, have you thought about, the ergonomics of the open plan? How does this make your employees more efficient? What is it about how they are sitting? Do they have HSE in place? Do you have an HSE department? And for those who work in organizations where you actually manage factories, these are key conversations that need to take place, and they are about behavior. How about motivation? We say a lot about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, and we stop there. However, motivation is a little bit deeper than that. It is, what am I driving at? So I tell people, for example, that if you don't have children, and when you do have children to take care of, your motivation to work kind of changes. So you may not be able to say, oh, I have a nice vision and I want to be an entrepreneur. I quit work and I'm going to start to set up my own thing. And it's going to take about 3 years for me to start to earn money, but that's okay too. Imagine a single father or a single mother having that conversation with themselves. Before they finish the conversation, they go into the shower, take a shower, dress up, and go to work, right? That is motivation. So these are conversations that must take place, and they are all results of the mind and behavior. So is psychology core to the conversations we need to have? Yes, it is. Do we need to start thinking about organizational psychology? Yes, we do. What is organizational psychology? What is it? So I took this off the web, but I thought it was perfect. It's called, like I said, IO. We will use IO because in North America, it's mostly called IO. I did my master's in the UK. It's just called organizational psychology. And it is also called occupational psychology when we start to have conversations. It's different from occupational therapy. Occupational therapy is just one branch of it. Now, what are the specialist areas that feed into organizational psychology? We have industrial engineering, obviously, because we're talking about HSE, it's in organizational psychology. Experimental psychology, we want to be able to predict, how has your organization fared? What happened? What were the effects? How did it work? How did it not work? What is wrong? What is right? Social psychology, because we talk about relationships among people. Management is so important. Look, leadership and management, we can't overflog it. Leadership and management is key. And then sociology, how do people relate when you put them together in a group and they have common goals and they have common tasks and they're supposed to complete these tasks together. So IO psychology is the branch that applies psychological theories and principles to organizations. I think by now you've kind of gotten that down, you understand that. And it's focused on increasing, the bold is mine, the emphasis on mine, increasing workplace productivity. So productivity is key in organizational psychology. And then the related issues, such as the physical and the mental well-being of employees. I don't know if there are any questions at this point. I'm going to just pause for 1 minute and see if I have any questions come in. Any questions at this point? Any questions? Any questions?
Thank you so much. From the chat box, no questions yet.
Cool. Great. And everybody is being carried along. Have I, people think that psychologists do a lot of tech talk. Am I doing tech talk?
It would be nice to get feedback from the participants, but for me, you're doing great.
Okay, thank you, sis.
Can we have your feedback in the chat box, please?
Okay.
Speaker, you're doing well.
Awesome.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Taufik.
you.
Thank you, Toby. Thank you. Oh,
Great
great.
job. Awesome. Wonderful. Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Is industrial psychology same as managerial psychology? No, it is not. There is managerial psychology, which is a sub-core of industrial psychology. Okay, following. People are following. We're doing good. Great. So, the big question, the elephant in the room, is industrial organization.
Okay, so there's a feedback. You are too fast. Okay, so we are mindful of time.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to fit it into the time, or I think Coach Lara, this is really broad, and I'm trying to fit it into time.
I know it's a broad topic. Yeah.
I will
So
slow.
appreciate. Yeah, you're making it very relatable. Well done.
I'll slow down a little so that we can, it's important for me that we get it. All right. So thank you for that feedback. Awesome.
So we have a comment from Omotola. After this, I feel like I have a master's in psychology already.
You wish.
Omotola.
Nice one. Awesome. So is IO psychology the same as HRM or not? I hear this all the time. I get it even from my clients. So you are organizational psychology. What's that? Are you HR? Then I say, no, I actually have a master's in organization. They say, what's that? So basically, organizational psychology is largely misconstrued as being in competition with the HR function. I have actually had organizations where I've gone in and the HR people are the ones that say, no, we don't want any psychologists working on the team. So this is unfortunate because IO psychology is actually complementary to the HR function. To be able to understand why your employee, a particular employee, snaps at people in the morning, to be able to understand why they're not doing their work fast enough because their chair is uncomfortable, to be able to understand that some people may not be able to deliver in an open plan office. They may need a bit of privacy to do their work. This is key to your success as an HR practitioner. So industrial organizational psychology is in no way competing with HR. If anything, and I saw this quote and I'm going to read this in a while, it says that HR and psychology are the inseparable twins, which help us to appreciate more intently the complex human behavior which drives organizational performance. So if you truly want to practice—
That is very deep. Can you please repeat it, but slower? Is very deep, and I think it's really important because we have a lot of HR professionals on the call today. Thank you.
So it says that HR and psychology are the inseparable twins, which help us to appreciate more intently the complex human behavior which drives organizational performance. So it is important that HR practitioners begin to use organizational psychology to optimize the practice of HR. Organizational psychology has perspective, tools, and resources which can optimize your practice. So look at the example that I gave. Because of the way that we recruit at Talent Urbanity, we haven't had any turnover. We haven't had anybody that we've had, okay, we're still young, so maybe I shouldn't put our horn too quickly. But it is a challenge right now. People, a lot of people, organizations have people that did so well in the interview, did so well, their CV looks good, you put them on the job and they cannot perform. It's a real problem. So maybe providing organizational psychology tools as part of your selection and assessment process can be the difference in the turnover in your organization. It can be the difference in productivity in your organization. So I keep telling people not everybody can work, and I'm using the open plan office because it's so relatable. So many organizations where we go to and we start to dig deep into why somebody is not doing what they're doing. Now, we don't do PIPs very seriously in this country, and we should, and I pray that we start to do it. But one of the things that doing a proper performance improvement plan can do for you if you employ the tools that organizational psychology uses is to allow you to see the real reason why this person is not doing the things that they are supposed to do. So it also So because organizational psychology is much about behavior and the mind and why people are doing or not doing the things that they are doing or not doing, it increases organizational stability because you are focused on the reason why. So you're not only measuring what you see, you are also asking deep questions that help you to predict. So yeah, I'm singing the praise of psychology. Yes, I'm a psychologist. There you go. So there are 6 key subject areas, and I just want to talk around those subject areas. We have time. I just want to say a bit around the subject areas. Now, there are 6 core subject areas. Of course, there are many others, but these 6 are enough for you to understand the importance of organizational psychology. So the first is employee selection. Now, the kind of selection assessments that an organizational psychologist will do will incorporate personality and ability, not just ability. So somebody can be amazing at what they do, and they can move from one organization to the other and go from very high performing employee to struggling employee. This is critical. So if you don't understand organizational psychology, this is going to be a challenge. You hired somebody who was a high performer, came highly recommended, and you're waiting 1 year. The person has not speaked. The person has not produced. And then many times, HR starts asking, this person, you're scoring him low. Do you want us to, is he staying? Is he going? What's going to happen? So when we look at job descriptions, we are able to there's a lot that goes into employee selection. We just don't do enough. That's the truth. Now, many times when we send links for the assessment tests, even for, roles that are considered not too senior, people come back and say, this is too serious now. How much are they going to pay? And I tell them, well, as an organization, we refuse. We're not going to manage and put somebody in a particular role. So organizational psychology is very, very key. Is very focused on employee selection, putting the round peg in the round hole at the right time with the right KPIs. A lot of factors go in. The second subject area is ergonomics. So we talk about procedures and equipment that are designed to maximize performance as well as minimize injury. I'll give you a very simple one that we see all the time in the hospital. There is a way that drugs are arranged in the ambulatory room for the nurses. They know that there's if you have noticed, we don't practice it so well here, but there are some private hospitals where you still see there's a cabinet that has the danger sign. That is ergonomics. So if she goes to that cabinet, she needs to be well aware of, they need to be well aware. That is a bias. Amazing. Bias is one of the things that organizational psychology is able
Yes. Part
to
of the complexity that comes with it.
exactly. Because I said nurse, my mind immediately went to woman, which is a bias, which means that when I want to recruit a nurse, if I don't put assessment tests beforehand, as soon as everybody shows up and there's 1 man and 5 women, that man has practically lost the job. You understand what I'm saying? Because there is bias and there's not much we can do about the inherent biases that we carry. And you may think this is not serious now because we're just having a conversation. But when it starts to influence the choices I make, I've had managers say, oh, we're not putting her name to travel because she just had a baby. And I say, but did she decline? Is it her role supposed to go? And they say, no, there's no need. It's actually a bias. It is a bias. You think that it makes you more agreeable as HR to that employee, but it's not true. Autonomy, employee autonomy is key in employee satisfaction. How much control do I have over my own productivity and the things that I am achieving? This is really key. Then organizational development. So organizational psychologists help improve organizations. We help to increase profitability. We help to redesign products. We help to improve organizational structure. So for example, I tell people, I enter an office and I say, well, the color is wrong. So there is color psychology. You have to know the color to paint it's not just about the beauty, or about whether the building is going to look nice. And I'll give you another example. There's a particular paint company that paints their offices in a very upsetting kind of blue, and I won't call names. I've always wondered why. You see, because they don't understand how to draw people. They don't understand the effect of color on people. So if you want to redesign your product, you're talking about industrial organizational psychology. If you want to improve structure, do you know that some organizations need the flat structure and not the layered structure in order to work better? Have you thought about thick lines and dotted lines? Who do they come to? The fact that the organization has done it for 100 years does not mean that it is right post-COVID, particularly in this era. So the organizational psychologist will help you to do that. How about performance management? I know performance was key in my last, in the discussion that I was having earlier on. So we are able to develop, so industrial organizational psychologists develop assessments and techniques to help you measure whether people are actually doing their jobs well. Now, we design KPIs, we do performance measuring systems, but they are so subjective that sometimes we are not able to truly see the relationship between productivity and the assessment of the person, irrespective of who has done the assessment. So performance management is key in organizational psychology. And then training and development. What type of skills are necessary to perform specific jobs? Do you know there are times when you recruit somebody knowing that they have a skills gap, or you know that they fit the org culture so well, they fit the personality space, the space between the managers and the employees so well that you take them on board even with that gap. So people say, I only want people that have a 2-1. Please, if you are here and you are still doing the 2-1 first class thing, I don't think you've gone to any Nigerian university recently. Sometimes when we do assessments, the people who graduated with a third class, and I'm talking from my experience, so it's really, really limited. But I said when we do assessments, the people who graduated with third class actually do better on the ability and personality test. True. Because a lot of other factors, and that's where psychologists come in, a lot of other factors affected performance in school. So somebody who was chauffeur driven every day in AC to Unilag, the Unilag that we know, is most likely going to perform better than someone who lived, if you've seen any of the hostels in recent times. There was a video of UNN hostel very recently. I hope you don't see it because I saw it, I watched it and I cried. Anybody who lives in that hostel and goes to school and comes out with a 2-1 should be given an award, and I'm not even kidding. Like that, it's not, animals shouldn't live in that situation. So when you judge only about how the person graduated, you may be making a mistake. If, for example, during COVID, a parent lost their job and the house is struggling, the child goes back to school, the child is not able to focus, many more factors. So when we talk about ability, let's look at ability for what it is. Ability. How good is this person? And not necessarily what did they graduate with, or what course did they study and all that. And I'm not throwing those out of the window. I'm just saying we need a more robust employment, training and development, and all that is provided for in organizational psychology. How about work life? I put a post up the other day about work-life balance. You know, the way we say it is like life and work are two different things. But actually, work is part of life because there's work, there's career development, there's family, there's romantic relationships, there all those parts in the wheel of life that all constitute your satisfaction with your life. And so when you take work life, which is one component, and you use it as a balance, the only thing you want to use to balance your life, then you've already failed, and that is flawed. So organizational psychologists are better able to help you in this respect. All right. Any questions?
Okay, I have a comment though. Thank you so much. I mean, you're very spot on in the examples that you had shared. I want to talk about the color psychology. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, I think about 3-4 years ago, I was listening to the radio in my car, and there was a psychologist on here who was talking about the impact of colors, right? And she gave an example that struck me. She said, take for instance, the downfall bosses, and I'm talking about Lagos now because I believe a lot of us here understand how the Lagos environment works with regards to transportation. The downfall buses are painted yellow. Meanwhile, the same downfall buses are painted white on the island. So the buses on the mainland are painted yellow. The buses on the island are painted white. So she said, yellow color signifies energy. I mean, yellow pumps you up. It increases your energy level. Meanwhile, white is very calming and peaceful. She made an analysis that the way downfall drivers drive on the mainland, drive the yellow buses, they don't do the same on the island. If you take the same bus driver and you put him on the island to drive an island bus, it's entirely different. I mean, the way they drive in Orile, Mushi, and all of it's still the same Lagos, but two different locations, two different buses with two different colors. I mean, with that analysis that she made then, it struck me on the importance of colors to our psychology. It's also important that we identify how colors drive us, even up to the way we dress, the way the environment we stay in. There's a whole lot around color psychology that I think HR professionals can begin to leverage, right, to help drive creativity and innovation and sometimes energy within the work environment.
So it's actually important when you're about to renovate the office to get a psychologist. And so what happens in developed countries is that you give the psychologist a map of who's sitting where, and they are able to give you the colors that will match, and then where the doors should be. So sunlight, for example. So in the morning, if your office is usually dark, you don't get sunlight, the likelihood that you'll be a little bit depressed in the mornings is high. So when you get into the office, as much sunlight as is possible, for those of us who live in Lagos, take advantage of it. In developed countries, they actually buy solar lamps in order to provide that pump that you get from sunlight, for example. So lighting is key, colors are key, and these are key conversations that we haven't started having, but we need to start to have them because more and more, these factors are becoming even more critical in the workplace post-COVID, because we had to shut down the world. And so we need industrial organizational psychologists now more than ever. And yes, we are one of the critical careers for the next phase of the world of work. And I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, and HR professionals need to start leading those conversations.
Yeah. So let's look at a few critical contemporary topics. I thought that we should just touch on this before we close. Employee motivation is key. What will drive the employee to produce, to be as productive as we need him to be as HR practitioners? Employee testing is key. It's not enough to do that performance review that we do, quarterly business reviews, quarterly performance. Those are not enough. We actually need to start doing ability and personality testing over time. So for example, the civil service has an idea of it because it was built by the British. And so it has a semblance of a testing system for promotion. I say semblance because I've participated in some of those testing systems, and they're not as objective as they should be, but there is something. So you don't just automatically get interviewed and move into a role. There's actually an examination that you need to, because mental acuity declines, and it could decline for many reasons. Many people, maybe not many, but some people have biological problems, challenges, why they may not be able to be as productive as they were last year. And if you're just doing an automatic system without depth, you may miss those cues. You may miss the cues for mental problems. You may miss those cues. So somebody being quiet all the time in a meeting, it may not pique you, you may not think that it is anything, but it is something. So employee motivation is key. Employee testing is key. Leadership is key. It is so key. We have a cultural system that pushes age, for example, as part of leadership, And these are conversations that I have to have, unfortunately, many organizations where I go to. The fact that you're older than somebody does not mean that you cannot report to the person. That is just plain silly, I must say. So age is not part of it. We're talking skills, we're talking ability, we're talking agility, we're talking adaptability. These are the issues with leadership. We're talking the ability to motivate. We're talking the ability to break down strategy into implementable. So if you don't have those skills and abilities, then you really have no business rising the way that you're rising. And it doesn't mean you cannot rise into leadership. For example, somebody could be a very good manager on the shop floor. I'm talking about factories now. In a factory setting, they can drive people to work. That same person may not be a good leader in the HR department, where it requires a lot more complex thinking. So those are factors that you need to talk about. Product design. So the other day, I looked at a bottle of something. I won't say what it is. And I asked somebody to help me look for an old bottle. And then I filled the 2 bottles with water. And then I started asking a few, it was just a short test. I started asking people, I took up the peel and I started asking people, which bottle is nicer? It didn't have the name on it. It just had water inside. And everybody picked the older bottle. Then I asked myself, why did this massive organization change their bottle? They didn't check. They just changed the bottle because, I don't know. But product design, it is important that you introduce organizational psychology into product design. Workplace diversity, another place where we play lip service and we don't really do the work.
Hi, Tayo, just to add to what you said on the product design and workplace design, I think from that is also where design thinking skills comes into play, where you are not just designing based on your thoughts, but you're designing, putting the people you're designing for in consideration. And a lot of times, even we HR professionals, when we come up with policies and initiatives, the employees, we don't involve them. And yet we expect them to accept. A lot of times they will accept, but most times they will accept just because I have to, but they would not connect really to the purpose why you initiated that process or that system. So it's really important, and empathy really does help us in getting the views and the input of our end users, who are people and our talent in the workplace.
So I was going to talk about workplace diversity. Thank you, Lara, for that. I was just reading.
Hello, Lara.
Yes, please. I thought I had somebody speak.
Yeah, someone called my name. Is that Eyitayo? Okay, maybe that person has network challenges.
So I had a different question. Hello. Good evening.
Good evening, Eniola.
Yeah. Yes. So I just posted in the chat. Basically, so with product development teams, aren't they like the SMEs for product designs? How do you, as a industrial psychologist or like a organizational psychologist or HR person, how do you contribute to those conversations?
Okay, so first of all, this is where industrial organizational psychology is not HR. It covers a wider range than HR, and we're talking about organizational psychology. So yes, we are in most SMEs and most, well, I don't know about Nigeria, but in advanced countries, all product designs, Coca-Cola, everywhere. I have colleagues in the hospitals, in the product design, pharmaceutical companies. You have an organizational psychologist somewhere on the team.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
However, for HR, and it starts from where I started from, HR ought to be able to define who sits on teams. That's your job. You ought to have as much knowledge and trust within leadership to recommend that this should be done. So for example, facility management doesn't sit under HR in many organizations. However, if there will be renovation, it is in HR's place to say, excuse me, There's an impact of color on productivity. I would like the facility team to invite organizational psychology to come and talk about color. So although it doesn't sit under HR, where HR is moving out of that back office, and it's part of the conversations I've been having in so many sessions since COVID started, to say HR needs to move from the back office. HR needs to, every organization is about the people, which means that every organization is about the HR department, irrespective of where in the organization that thing is going to be done. So does this kind of explain what we're saying, that HR needs to come to the fore? HR needs to start to have those conversations that were not traditionally HR, but because of the peculiarity of a world being shut down, they have become HR conversations. Does that help?
Yes, that helps. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay. So workplace diversity. Any other question, Lara?
So there are lots of questions, but we'd like you to just wrap up. Then
Let me quickly wrap up, and then we'll take
right straight into
questions.
the Q&A session.
Okay.
Yes, Q&A afterwards.
All right. So we'll take the questions, and thanks everyone. So workplace diversity, and we saw it even on this call. I gave an example, and I said something about nurses, and I immediately used the term she, and that is a bias. So we have a lot of cultural biases, and I was talking about ageism. We have a culture that so venerates, and this is not to say, I mean, I'm hitting 50 in a few months. This is not to push away, the aged. We have an aging workforce. We have for the first time 5 generations working at the same time. So this is a contemporary conversation in all societies. However, here the diversity is stunted by a lot of our perceptions, a lot of our misgivings, a lot of our cultural. I have seen organizations that will whisper and say, look, even though we're opening it, we don't really want this tribe in the role. And it's real. I don't know if anybody has had that experience. We're opening it up. We say it is open, but if you can just avoid employing this tribe, then it's okay. So it's not really open. So workplace diversity is real. We need the strengths of everybody. I come from a very diverse family. I have a brother married to an Igbo woman. I'm married to a Tiv man. We lived in the north. I speak Hausa better than I speak Yoruba. And so I'm very culturally diverse. Every time I see these nuances in the workplace, it hurts me, because our strength is actually in our diversity as Nigerians. I know there are other nationals on the call. Permit me to use the Nigerian situation in this situation. We are so diverse that we're so strong. The skill sets that we have in our various locations, and I'm not using tribe. So Lagosians behave a certain way no matter where they are. They don't want anybody to cheat them. Whether the Lagosian is Yoruba, Hausa, or Igbo is irrelevant. They live in Lagos, and in Lagos there's a culture of fighting for your rights. And so it's difficult when they go to a place where things work. It becomes boring, slow. You hear Lagosians use words like that when they go to a place like Abuja or up north, So there's a culture, a location culture in Lagos. That location culture, we carry it everywhere that we go. So diversity may not necessarily be tribe, may not necessarily be gender, it may not necessarily be disability, and disability is key. Last year, I broke my ankle, and so I was in a wheelchair for a while. And I remember going somewhere to the supermarket, and I was in the wheelchair and I was pulling myself along, and the kids were pushing the trolley, and people were passing and saying sorry, and they were saying it so, it was as if I was dead. and I sitting at, I'm a psychologist, so every time people behave, I ask myself why. It suddenly made me go and read up on disability and the challenged people, physically challenged people, and how these people are treated from the society, and how this affects the workplace. And it was interesting to learn. Do you know that there are some workplaces where we still don't have ramps, which means you have no intention to hire anybody in a wheelchair? That's what it means. You don't have a ramp, you don't have a lift or an escalator or anything. So you have no intention to hire anybody in a wheelchair. So does that mean that people in wheelchairs cannot do work that doesn't require legs? These are the conversations that we need to start to have. And this is about organizational psychology. And so I have truly overflowed performance. So I'm not going to say anything about that. In conclusion, and I love I don't know about you, I have 3 boys. And when the youngest was younger, Barney was in. And so there was this song, I love you, you love me, we're a happy family.
With a great big hug, and it is coming to you. Good to see you love me too.
So HR management and organizational psychology are members of the same family. And we truly need to start working together. We need to use the tools in organizational psychology to our advantage. Thank you very much.
Woo, 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 woo. Thank you. That was
Fantastic.
fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you. Great session. All right.
Awesome.
So move straight to the Q&A session. Like I did mention, this is courtesy of HR Gems Coaches Network. It is not just Coach Lara, but Coach Lara and the entire network. Eyitayo is part of our Gems network. KG2 is part of our Gems network. We have another Gem star who is going to be coordinating the Q&A session. So I'd like to call on Tosin Alexander Idowu to please help coordinate the Q&A session in the next 10-12 minutes thereabouts. Tosin, are you still with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Take it away, sis.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Loud and clear.
Great. Thank you so much, Eyitayo. That was the bomb. Can we get some ovation from the house? Let's unmute and clap and appreciate her.
Wow, amazing.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Really on point. And was a wow. Okay, so I'm just going to run through the questions that we already have on the chat group. Questions started coming in at about, say, 6 o'clock. So we have one here from Eniola Oyeleke, and she said, aren't the product development teams, the HR, aren't the product development teams the SMEs on product design? How can HR contribute to this discussion?
I
think she already answered that.
Yes,
yeah.
We've taken that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, let me take the other one. Okay, I think I'm just going to enlarge this because it's not working in this small version. Okay, apologies. So if we have other people that have not put in their questions, please kindly put it on, or you want to ask it by raising up your hand, that's fine, but that would give us very limited time.
Okay, so a couple of questions have come in. I can support you, sis.
Okay, I can see. Okay, so I've seen one. How can HR use organizational psychology in selection, person and organizational fit? So she did mention something about that, but I guess you want to just speak a little to that again. Eyitayo, thank you.
Yeah, so I took out my video so I could get my occupational testing. This is just one of the organizations that I'm certified to use their testing materials. And so we have quite a very structured. So first of all, you need to be certified not just as an organizational psychologist, but to be able to use the tools for each organization. So for example, I can use CEB SHL. This is CEB SHL. And it's a very defined process. It's not a process that I can sit here and talk about. It's something that you get certified in to do personality and ability testing. So this is the ability, one of the ability tests. And it goes through And I just want to go through some of the strengths that we we talk about. So we talk about style, ability, style. So is how strong is this person? Where are the strengths that this person has? We talk about purpose and motivation, intrinsic motivation. Why does this person even need to work at all? Before we start talking about a particular organization or a particular, so there are sets, and most organizational psychologists will be certified maybe 2 or 3 organizations, international organizations, that provide testing systems for you to do proper ability testing in selection and assessment. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Eyitayo. But were you sharing something? Because what I can see on my screen is questions.
No. She was reading out something to her.
Okay, she was reading out something. Okay.
I'm actually showing you this. So let me stop
from
sharing.
the book.
I was actually showing the occupational testing handbook.
Okay. Oh, okay.
SHL, and I was saying this is just one. So you can see these are the ones that I use. They're quite like a range, and for each locality and for each organization, you would choose which ones you want to put together. But you need to be certified to use it, and this actually costs money. So you're certified, and then they send you the manual, and then you're able to use the test.
All right, thank you so much, Eyitayo. There's another question. Please, can a managerial psychologist perform an industrial psychologist and human resource official role, I believe? Yeah, perform as that.
Yeah, well, managerial psychology is very, I don't think we have management psychology as, I'm not sure if you have a master. So the way that psychology splits itself is that when you get to the master's level, then you go into a specialized, and then when you go into the PhD level, then you specialize in the specialization, and it's quite defined. So management psychology, not managerial psychology, management psychology is an arm of psychology. It actually is an arm of psychology, and they would practice as management psychologists, not as organizational psychology. So when you specialize, it's quite defined. It's quite defined.
Okay. So there's this other question now. Would I be right to call an organizational psychologist OD specialist, as they both deal with behavior science? Would it be right to call both of them as an interchangeably? Are they similar? Are there similarities? Yeah.
So when I'm asked to use one phrase to describe organizational psychology, then yes, organizational development specialist is something that I use sometimes, but it's very limiting because it doesn't talk about HSE, it doesn't talk about training and development and all the other areas of organizational psychology, which are also essential.
All right, fantastic, thank you. So another question there, what are some of the tools used in organizational psychology to ensure you hire the best hands and improve productivity on the job?
So one of the ways that we make sure you hire the best hands is to use certified tools. So there's something in research methods that we call standardization. So when you use the standard tools that are internationally verified tools, so it's not just about how I feel, what I think, what the CV says, but to actually use tools. And like I said, you need to be certified to use them. In terms of improving productivity, you actually do a productivity assessment to check whether, I'm surprised sometimes I go into an organization and an employee does not even know what they will be measured on. It is that bad. So we do those KPIs and they are not linked to the job description, they are not linked to the performance management. So by the time we marry your performance management system, not process, the entire system end to end with your job description and your KPIs, it gives you a better picture of why the productivity may be low, what you can do to improve productivity. And so there's a whole science to it.
Great, thank you so much. Are there more questions? I can't see any more coming in. We kind of taken the questions.
Yeah, I sent some questions to your DM.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so someone is
Yes,
asking.
on my DM, yes. I've seen the one you sent. We kind of asked them. Yes,
Okay.
we've asked them. Yes, I saw all of them. Okay. So if there are no questions, are there comments? Anyone wants to share the experience of organizational? Someone said somewhere that they have just gotten a master's in organizational. Is it organizational? Let me see.
Okay, I've seen a question I think we might have not answered.
Okay, so please.
Yeah, so it reads, what's the relationship between industrial psychology and organizational behavior?
Okay, we've not taken that.
Organizational behavior is a subset of industrial psychology. So industrial organizational psychology it was called industrial psychology during the Industrial Revolution, and it has evolved to organizational psychology. Most of the time it's called industrial organizational, there's a / industrial stroke organizational psychology, and behavioral science is just, behavioral psychology is a subset of it. Or is it the other way? Organizational behavior is what we do. That's like the behavior of organization is one of the things that organizational psychologists do.
Okay. There's another question. Leaders require some trainings on organizational psychology. However, the primacy of production over humanist these days have seriously blinded most leaders from drawing on the teachings of organizational psychology. How do you advise HR to balance the two?
Okay, so balance is one of the things that's very challenging. Even though we say that, and I hear it in a lot of organizations that I support, that, management is no longer considering the people. Most of the time, what we actually mean is that the people don't want to work. We have low productivity as a culture. I am Nigerian, so I'm not insulting anybody, I'm insulting myself. The way that we judge productivity is that I sit at a desk all day from 9 to 5. Many people, in many organizations, presenteeism is a major problem. The fact that you are at work does not mean that you are being productive. The organization needs you to be productive, not just show up at work. So you can actually show up at 7 a.m. every day, close at 9 p.m. every day, and not be productive. It is very possible. And that is more damaging to the organization than anything else. Because if the organization was to measure on the surface, they have 50 employees and they have 48 most of the time. So it seems like their objectives should be achieved, but their objectives are not being achieved. Why? Because 30% of the people who are online are chatting on WhatsApp. If you've worked in a developed country, I've worked in the UK, you cannot touch your phone when you're at work. You actually put it on silent, you drop it in your bag and you drop it somewhere. So there are no distractions. When you connect to the Wi-Fi in the office, you cannot browse what your church program is doing. Yes, I'm a Christian, so I have to use church program so that I don't accuse anybody else. You have no rights to be watching a church program while you're supposed to be at work. So when we break it down, most of the time, the managers are correct to say, produce, let me see productivity. And then you can come and talk to me about welfare. But if you're not being productive and you're measuring productivity by showing up, then showing up may not necessarily be productivity. And if for you, you show up and you're productive, then you have something to say to HR to argue for your case. I hope that helps.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm very aligned with you on that position, Eyitayo, is that you show up every day doesn't necessarily mean that you're productive. And we, in quote, church people should we should improve, we should repent, as it were, because we just do ogota. Say that we just as in whatever anyhow we just collect money. Do you understand? And for some people, I know for senior people, that is changing. Of course, with the workload that you have, you probably do not have that kind of luxury to be so distracted. But for the upcoming generation, what I see is that they almost cannot function without their phones, without pressing their phones every 30 minutes. It is, I don't know. So what do you, so maybe my question, maybe I should turn that into a question, Eyitayo, and say this generation of workforce and the whole tech thing and everybody putting their WhatsApp on their laptops and stuff, and the distraction is huge. You know, what do you think are the things that from a psychologist's perspective can be done to manage some of these issues of productivity that are linked to, that we see in the workplace currently?
Let me start by saying something that will not be popular at all. As an HR practitioner, should kill the need to be liked. You know, the need to be liked, just kill it, you know, sacrifice it, throw it away. It doesn't exist. Now, if you remove the need to be liked, then it is okay to have policies on the use of your tools during work hours. It is okay. So women will come and tell you, and I'm a woman, so I can say this, I have a right to say it. Will come and tell you, I was just calling the house to check the nanny. Excuse me? You need to structure your home such that your home can run when you are not there. And I have had children throughout my work life. So I have a right to say, no, when a man says this, we raise our shoulder and then we start saying, no, the men are doing something to the women. But I have seen women use children as excuse all the time. This is wrong. So if you cannot function without using your phone to do things that are not work related, then we have to have a policy for the use of mobile phones in the office. And it is okay. It's unfortunate that now many organizations have resorted to WhatsApp as a way of communicating information flow quickly. But other organizations are also using more technical tools to do this. And there are tools that Microsoft has, for example, tools, I've forgotten what it's called, that where you can chat and do everything as if it's WhatsApp, but it's not WhatsApp. So that way you are not on WhatsApp, you are on the organization's tool for instant messaging. So there are many instant messaging apps that are not the market apps that organizations can use. It's not Teams, it's actually something else. But yes, Teams also works. Everybody can install Teams. So there are better ways to manage this. And if you stop wanting to be liked, then you can actually say, look, we have a problem. You know, Houston, there's a problem. We have to talk about tools. You can create, you should have, for example, on your network, you should be able to monitor what people do. I have seen somebody attend Holy Ghost service. I have nothing against any church. That's an example. Holy Ghost service during the work hours.
The spiritual somebody.
That is so not right.
Jesus not right.
Done that. It's not right. So we have to have systems in place where we have virtual management systems such that if you are in the office, so for example, it's not in every office that you can connect your personal mobile phone to the Wi-Fi in the office. It's not in every workplace. There are some workplaces where you can only connect the device that has been issued to you. That will limit, because a lot of Nigerians also think that the workplace Wi-Fi is free. Nobody is paying. Nothing is ever free. That's the truth. So there's no free lunch. Somebody is paying for it somewhere. So so I'm here and I'm not being paid for it, but I am paying for it because there's internet, there's power, there's AC, there is a payment for everything that you benefit from. So we need to stop that attitude, and I'm hoping that, well, that's some of the things that Coach Lara always encourages. I'm hoping that in the HR Gems network, we don't have people who think that, because it is free, we should abuse it. So we need to have structures and policies in place. And yes, tech policy, very important. Use of device policy, very important, and we need to enforce it.
Thank you so very much, Eyitayo. That was so very on point. So I think I'm going to just take the last question. It says that, what do you do where you work in an organization where HR does not say anything about employee motivation, does not even conduct interviews or even carry out those key HR functions.
And you leave the organization and you apply. I mean, if you have an employment letter that says, and I'm really not joking, part of why you are on this call is to network. We don't network enough. We don't take advantage of access enough. When we do, we abuse it. So that's the other extreme. But you can actually plot your way out, and you can start to apply. And don't be too desperate to hold on to a job where you're not actually performing, because in your next job it will show that although you say you have spent 3 years in an HR role, you really don't know how to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Your manager is going to quickly figure out that you didn't perform those roles, and that becomes a problem in your next place of work. So if your place of work is not allowing you to do what you were recruited to do, then you should start plotting your way out. And it can take you 2 years to leave, but you should start plotting your way out.
Okay, in addition to that comment as well, I always recommend sometimes is if you can totally just help that HR personnel. For instance, you can send them invitation to join HR meetings or HR trainings or HR learning platform. You can get book for them. Gradually, what you're doing, you're helping the person gain awareness. But sometimes, really, like I did mention earlier, some people can't give what they don't have. They might just be in their comfort zone and just think, okay, I'm just passing by. That HR person might also be going through issues. You can't tell. But how are you also able to help?
Lara, I think she's talking about, they're talking about themselves. They are HR, but they're not being allowed to do what they were hired to do. You understand?
Oh,
not
okay.
That
I thought the question was they are HR person. Oh, okay.
They
Okay.
as HR are not, they're not being allowed to do what HR is supposed to do.
Oh, okay. 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 All right.
Okay, I think there is a bit of, okay, I don't know, maybe there's clarity. Redmi 9 says my question was not properly addressed. So Redmi 9, you want to clarify your question so that it can be probably addressed? You can even speak up so that we can have clarity to it. If you say it wasn't properly addressed. While Redmi 9 is getting ready, let me take the other question so that the Eyitayo can also be getting her mind ready. All right, it says, how do you create a balance in a creative organization like animation industry, where too many policies can stifle the creativity flow of the employees?
Yeah, so as you're drawing up your policy is not a stagnant document. Policies, particularly IT policies, should be as flexible as possible. And I help a lot of organizations draw up IT policies. You can actually create IT policies that allow for creativity. Now, we can sit under many things. So if you need to create balance, then put creativity as the balance. Get an application that allows for design thinking, whiteboarding, and all that. So for example, I can use their office. Yes, the IBM Center in Marina. I think that's where it is. Can't remember which building it is in. There's actually a room where you can just go and think and write. It's a design thinking center. So you can actually have design thinking centers where people can go and actually think. You know, you're talking about creativity. They can actually think. So design thinking is one of the things I'm certified in. And design thinking says think out of the box. It doesn't necessarily say that you need to be doing something that has nothing to do with the work. So yes, so if you work in an animation studio, you want to draw, you want to think about all kinds of things. So boards and screens and lots of, so an actual thinking room is what an organization needs to think about. And when you put those kind of things in place, then you reduce, then you can also use bigger screens. So that way more people can see what you're doing. Then you can use smaller units. So it's not one pathway. As HR, you need to have that bird's eye view. So you're looking at everything holistically, and you can put creativity in its own place. And while managing creativity means we need to manage the way that the office plan is, which means that people can actually go somewhere and allow their juices to work. I've worked in an organization where there's a relaxation room. You can go and take a nap during the day just to allow yourself. All that is part of organizational psychology, does not take away from creativity. So in creating the balance, you need to think about all these things when you make your policies. And then some policies are not just one way. They shouldn't be only restrictive. They should also encourage. So your policy development process, the PDP, has to be very robust.
All right, thank you. So I have a response from the lady who asked the question that you responded to, and I also responded to. She's Faith SRMS says, Lara is correct. I'm not the HR person, but I'm speaking based on what I see.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So please invite your HR professional to trainings, learning opportunities, buy books for them, or recommend read-ups, write-ups, articles for them. That would also help the HR person. All right. Well,
Lara,
yes?
That's recommendation. If it is, what is this person? What was that thing? Anti-Taiwo. Sorry, not Taiwo that you are the battle. The one that, if it's an anti-Taiwo kind of person, you want to be buying books for your HR. You had better have a relationship.
That is how you build the relationship. That is how you build. That's how you build. Gift opens ways and opens people's hearts. And that's the power of gifting.
I agree.
Right?
So what I'm saying is that the person builds the relationship first and not goes from the perspective of I want to correct or
you're not getting me right. So your purpose, your own thinking is you want to correct. That is your own purpose. You're not saying to that person, but the action you take to help that person correct and build is to give gift in love.
Hello,
so you're not saying I want to correct you.
We are saying the same thing. Psychologists help us do the... No, psychologists, come here. No, wait. You are coming from the perspective of an action that needs to be taken. I am saying that the person that is wanting to take the action should think about the action he wants to take first and have the right motive and right mindset when taking the action. Because, yes, I know gifts opens doors, totally, but gifts also can be perceived differently.
Exactly. So if I give
That's
you
where I'm coming from.
So if I give you a book in HR as an HR professional, how else can that be perceived the other way?
Okay.
The point is that, so Lara is talking as a senior HR leader and somebody who has built herself. That perspective is valid.
Exactly.
You are also speaking from the point of view of, look, you don't know how your leader is going to perceive a gift. And in my experience, leaders are quite suspicious. Very few leaders are robust enough to think that a gift is altruistic. Many times people look gift horses in the mouth. So both of you are correct. Whoever is giving the gift needs to look very well and make sure that the goal cannot be misconstrued, and they need to give it in a way that it sits in a good place. So maybe for her birthday, maybe for her birthday, or maybe as a gift, or maybe say, oh, I attended one thing, I think you will love it. Oh, I belong to the HR Gem network, I think you should be there. Something that is friendly and nice and not judgmental, because that's actually what you're saying. Not judgmental, because once it's judgmental, the person will fight back, and then you will not be able to.
Absolutely. Thank you, psychologist Eyitayo.
I think it's from a place of love, right?
Yeah, from a place of love.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to be.
I think this has been a wonderful time. I think this has been a really wonderful time.
I just want the question.
So Faith, we can take this conversation. Faith says, what the lady who has asked the question, I have actually invited her for an HR training, but she declined. She feels I'm interested in her position because I'm a lawyer.
You have to
build. I mean, so for me, no, really, we are both right. Sometimes
stop calling me psychologist
first.
Psychologist.
Please, it's not.
So the question
I
that
will talk. Let's take it offline. Well, I know what I want to say.
the person who sent the question read me nine said, and I'm reading the question now. I didn't read it earlier. Leaders require some trainings on organizational psychology and emotional intelligence. It's twin sister. First of all, emotional intelligence is not the twin sister of organizational psychology. Emotional intelligence is one aspect of areas of intelligence, which include spatial intelligence, social intelligence, academic intelligence, and so on. Intelligence is one construct out of over 50 constructs in psychology. So emotional intelligence is not organizational psychology's twin sister. Emotional intelligence is the tool, and I've done a training on emotional intelligence in the workplace recently. I think I saw it. It's on YouTube somewhere. I've forgotten the organization I did for Lara. You know what I'm talking about. You were in that training. So you can go and, attend that for emotional intelligence. They're not twin sisters, full stop first. And then the primacy of production over humans these days has seriously blinded some leaders from drawing on the teachings of organizational psychology. And what I said is that production is the reason why the humans are there. Production is the reason why you were hired in the first place. Organizations are not altruistic. They didn't just say, oh, let's bring people together because we like them and we want to have one big happy family. An organization had goals, and that's what I was trying to explain. They had a reason why you were recruited. And it doesn't need to be one over the other. It is that production is part of the job of humanists. We can help you to make the organization as productive as it can be. Now, how can HR balance the two? HR needs to use one to the other, and that is to use humanism, topics like organizational psychology, to boost production and satisfy leadership. That's what we're talking about.
Please repeat that again. Repeat that again. That's quite deep.
So he's asking the person is asking, how do we advise?
I mean your quote, the quote you just shared now on how HR needs to use humanism.
So it's not so much balancing the two. HR needs to use humanist approaches like organizational psychology to boost production and therefore achieve the goals of the organization. So it's not about balancing something, it's about using one thing to push, to drive the other. So HR needs to have the conversation of, okay, if you want people to close later, then you need to provide buses. They're willing to close later, but you need to provide buses. So for me, that's not a balance. That is using the knowledge of mental health and emotional well-being and all that, using it to drive productivity. But you must link it to productivity because the executives, and I mean, in my last role, I was a chief operating officer, the executives are interested in the bottom line. And you as HR, you are supposed to push the bottom line. You're supposed to make the group able to achieve the bottom line by putting the right people in the right roles for the right times, understanding when people need to go on vacation, understanding when people need to stay longer, understanding how to change shifts, for example, how to make one shift longer and one shift shorter. It's actually a conversation that I had recently with an organization that I was supporting, how they will increase a particular shift because people on that shift are coming from, they've slept, they've woken up, they're wide awake. So can we make that shift longer? So these are some of the conversations that HR must have, but it's not balance. The word balance can be tricky. It means that one gives and the other gives. That balance is not the word. It's using one to drive as a catalyst to drive the other. I hope that helps.
Thank you very much. It does help. So we have this last question is what I'm going to take. Lara, can we take it?
Wow, it's 6:35 already. Okay, in 2 minutes.
Exactly.
In 2
it's
minutes.
6:35.
Yeah.
Okay, but so that this person does not feel bad, so let's try and take it. It says, I've been trying to get an internship role to improve my skills, but because I'm based in Ibadan, it's been difficult. How can I go about it? So let me try and answer that question. To start with, don't I hear limitation in your mind. Don't say you're in Ibadan. There are companies there now. enter there and tell them you want to work for free. So the question is, are you looking for a paid internship or you're looking for an internship? But I think our psychologists can help, and our coach, Lara. What is your take on that?
You now push it. How does that work? I think that you've answered correctly. There's already limitation because I am based in Ibadan. Ibadan has BAT, flour mills. Ibadan has, factories. So you have to. Are you looking for a paid internship or you're looking for an internship? You can actually even do a virtual internship in order to improve. So there are different ways now. So I think it's not about Ibadan. But then the short answer, we give it on both sides. The short answer is in Lagos, there are also people looking for internships. So it's not the city.
I thought you were going to say, so come to Lagos.
My inbox is full of people looking for internships. They don't even want to get paid.
So is mine. So is mine. Okay. All right. So someone is asking, can you share the link of the training on emotional intelligence? Thank you. So if you can just do that, and then we can wrap up.
Let me see if I can.
If she gets it.
Coach Lara, what's the name of the organization? Because they actually, Lara.
We have to search that, but because of time, please fill your details on the feedback link, and everyone who shares their detail will send the recording as well as recording of the emotional intelligence training link. So please, we encourage you all to please fill the link posted in the chat box with your details. Toasting, over to you to close out the session.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I'm done.
Toasting.
Am I still on? I thought the internet has pushed me out. Can you hear me?
No, we can still hear you. Please, can you close the session?
Okay, yes. All right. So thank you so much, Eyitayo. It's nice putting a face to the name. Thank you for this time sharing from your wealth of experience, from your learnings over the years, and your journey as an HR person, as an organizational psychologist, as Bobo, everything. Thank you so much. On behalf of everyone on the group, as I said earlier, before people started dropping off the call, we had close to 100, and that was very, very encouraging. I want to say thank you to everyone also that has come in.
Despite the short notice.
Exactly.
We released the communication this week.
You understand? So thank you, everyone. We hope that this has been worth our while, and we've been able to learn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things from this session. I just saw someone asking what is germ. Another person is saying what is germ. Okay, so germ. Yes. Okay. So Lara, you want me to close? Let me just speak to that, and then so HR Germs is a platform. It's a change platform, and the full meaning is Great.Excellent.Minds, and we are a body of professionals. So a balance of professionals across age groups. So it's not just for the very high in code. Let me put it out as an experience. We also have young people in our midst. It's a coaching platform. It's a coaching network. Coach Lara just put it up for the HR Gems Coaches Network. It's a platform where we learn, where we encourage ourselves and learn the principles and the practices of coaching and how it relates to us as it relates to organizations, and it relates to the entire society. So it's a transformational group that was put together, championed by our coach Omolara Yeku, supported by a whole team on the background. I hope that answers it. We could probably send you, for as many as feel the feedback of and interested, we could also send you something where you can just read a little more about HR jobs. Thank you so very much. Eyitayo, we appreciate you for the time, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you
I
so
think
much.
it's time to put on our videos, let us say our goodbyes, and say hi, and